There are no other points of order. We now come to the 10-minute rule motion. Marco Longhi.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. So I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to require local authorities to maintain a register of heritage public houses in their area and to make provision in connection with the compilation and maintenance of such registers, to make provision relating to planning applications in respect of public houses on such a register, to place restrictions on the sale of heritage public houses, to make provision relating to the nomination of heritage public houses as assets of community value, and to make provision that the listing of heritage public houses and for connected purposes.
The question is that the honourable member... You've got 10 minutes.
Continue. Right, OK. Madam Deputy Speaker.
That was short.
Yes, no, I know. Yeah. I stand before you today with a call to action. On the 5th of August last year, we learned of the devastating loss of a cherished piece of my local community's history, the Crooked House. This beloved pub, with its unique character and rich tapestry of stories, was senselessly destroyed in what was seen by most as the ruthless pursuit of profit over preservation. The Crooked House wasn't just a pub. Over centuries, it was a gathering place, a sanctuary, a piece of our shared heritage. Its walls held countless memories and countless moments that defined our lives in the Black Country and far beyond. Built in 1765, the Crooked House saw the birth of the Industrial Revolution and the trials and tribulations of a people who worked our coal mines, our limestone mines, who worked in our foundries making nails, or the chains and anchors of the ships that sailed the seven seas. These were a long-suffering people who just got on with the job, while their living and working conditions were truly appalling. So seeing the Crooked House violently reduced to ashes and rubble immediately tore a profound wound that cut deep into the consciousness of a people, not just locally, but nationally, and in fact, from all corners of the planet. But the destruction of the Crooked House is not just a tragedy, it's a wake-up call. It exposes a disturbing trend where short-sighted greed trumps the preservation of our cultural heritage. It vividly exposes the shortcomings of our systems and frameworks that should offer better protection to these treasured assets. Anybody who might push back at this assertion should perhaps explain why it is that across the country, historic pubs, the hub of many local communities, are under threat from the same forces that claimed the Crooked House. That's why I'm here today. I'm here to say enough is enough. It's time to put people and history before money. It's time we enshrine the protection of our heritage pubs in law to give them the best chance of surviving the forces of greed, but also the winds of change. Imagine a future, Madam Deputy Speaker, where every historic pub is safeguarded, where people cannot act with impunity, and where our communities can thrive around these cherished institutions. It's a future we can create, but only if we act soon. We need improved legislation that empowers, but also compels, local councils to better protect our heritage pubs. Legislation that makes it financially unviable for those who destroy our history, legislation that enshrines the rights of communities to have a say in the future of their local pubs in a meaningful way, and legislation that will give these pubs the best chance to survive as businesses. In preparing this bill, it is important that I acknowledge the advice and support I received by many. Mr. Greg Mulholland, a former member of this place who leads the campaign for pubs. The Right Honourable Member for Kenilworth and Southam for his incisive advice and the support given by so many local people under the umbrella of the campaign to rebuild the Crooked House. Some of them are in the gallery today. There are three key elements to the proposed legislation. The first examines the role of local government, the second how temporary restrictions on the sale of heritage pubs could give them a fighting chance, and thirdly, how the process for the purchase of assets of community value can be assisted by this legislation. The first step would empower and compel local government to create and maintain a register of heritage pubs. This would trigger assessments for possible listing. It would highlight their local importance and ensure that local planners have immediate visibility of any impending activity on site at point of sale. The Cricket House had no protections whatsoever, and an immediate application for listing had no chance of succeeding while events unfolded very quickly. So the current voluntary schemes are obviously inadequate and cannot keep pace with those who will act out greed and with impunity. In Wales, under Section 24 of the Historic Environment Act 2016, buildings are automatically given statutory protection whilst Welsh ministers make listing decisions. These protections apply until Welsh ministers have made their decision. This is an example of something that could apply in England. The second element would involve placing temporary restrictions on the sale of a heritage pub. This is not something that I would normally advocate. Meddling with property rights goes against all my instincts. But if an asset with heritage and local community value is to have a chance of surviving against the changing purchasing habits of customers and against the cold, hard decisions made by brewery accountants, then I have concluded that restricting the sale of these pubs temporarily for a 12-month period to pub trade-only buyers and at a price independently agreed by trade specialists seems like a reasonable step to take to give these beleaguered buildings a fighting chance. At the end of the 12-month period, should a sale not be agreed, then the pub would return onto the open free market for sale. But this mechanism could give a local landlord with lower operating costs and overheads compared to those of a brewery the opportunity to make a success of the pub at a purchase price that is not competing with residential development buyers. Finally, I will address the process for assets of community value. This is a good scheme that works well for certain assets, maybe a local community hall. But can it work with the speed required when owners and buyers can move very quickly? And can the scheme handle the more complex nature of an asset that could still host a struggling going concern? Well, the Cricket House proved that the ACV scheme could not have coped. The ACVs could well have a place if a local community became aware and mobilised during the 12-month restriction period I referred to earlier, and an application were made at the end of this period. Part of the ACV process requires local communities to raise funds and complete transactions within a 6-month time frame. The restriction period would effectively enhance that process by 12 months, making the chances of a subsequent and successful ACV purchase much greater. Madam Deputy Speaker, the ongoing loss of our heritage pubs can represent a devastating loss to local communities. Heritage pubs can fail for multiple reasons. These are complex problems that obviously require more complex solutions. This is what I am attempting to do today. I ask you to stand with me. If we don't act now, then we will see pieces of our history eradicated forever. Stand with the ghosts of the Cricket House. Stand with my local communities in Gornal, Sedgley and Dudley and far beyond, who want to see the Cricket House rebuilt brick by brick. Stand for the future of our heritage pubs. Let us vow to protect these institutions, not just for ourselves, but for the generations to come.
I will now put the question. The question is that the honourable member have leave to bring in the bill. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Leah Nietzsche, Robin Miller, Gareth Johnson, Sir Edward Lee, Sean Bailey, Steve Tuckwell, Jane Stevenson, Sir Jeremy Wright, Lee Anderson, Jim Shannon, Paulette Hamilton, and myself, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Marco Longhi.
Heritage Public Houses Bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday, 21st of June.
Friday, 21st of June. Thank you.